Democrats. Today is Thursday, September 15th, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Thursday. So, I'm going to talk national and bring it back to Oklahoma. And you guys know how I try not to talk very much national, but I need to because as we get closer and closer to the election, national things come more and more into play, right? So, the first thing I want to talk about is my relief. My relief that our president, that President Joe Biden is our president, that he is in charge, and and to hear that the crisis with the railway has been averted. So the strike has been averted because they have a tentative agreement. And that's because the president actually rolled up his sleeves and got involved, and they negotiated into the night. And for those of you who aren't really aware what's going on, the railway workers were about to go on strike because they're being asked to work crazy hours, and they're told you have to be on call 24/7, and if you don't show up, you're fired. Well, those are not humane conditions. We are in a crisis, and 80% of our goods and services that come off the coast are touch the railway service in some respects. And so I understand why they wanted to keep the folks working. But let's remember that it's folks, that they're actual human beings. And thanks to our Labor Secretary, Marty Walsh, and our President, Joe Biden, the crisis has been averted. Yay and hurrah. Because I was afraid that this was going to be the thing that was going to interrupt the infrastructure reduction, the inflation reduction that we've been seeing, and crisis has been averted. I was afraid about gas prices, like I think you guys were too, but crisis has been averted. So I'm super excited about that. I wanted to start out by saying something positive about our president, saying something positive about the country, and demonstrating why I have as much hope as I have. Now, I have to talk about still national. I have to talk about the former guy who came out today and said that if he were to be indicted, perhaps something horrible would happen, the likes of which our country has never seen. Now, he didn't come out and threaten us, but I recognize an implied threat, just like I think you recognize an implied threat. So we go from a guy who would threaten us, saying, if you hold me accountable, some people are going to be mad and, it's going to be scary. We go from that to a guy who rolls up his sleeves and averts a union crisis. So glad that we have a new president. So as I talk about the former guy, it brings me back to Oklahoma. And I told you guys I was going to bring it back to Oklahoma. It brings me back to Oklahoma. We are about 2 weeks away from the point that we're all going to hate, where all of the commercials, the political commercials, start over again. Y'all remember all of the political commercials. And what the right-wing folks in our state are saying is that they're running to reinstate Trump policies. They say it outright in their literature, in the mail that they send to our homes, and they say it outright in the commercials that they make, that they are running to reinstate Trump policies, to get us back doing what Trump put into effect. Here's the reality. We got to a point with this railway crisis because of things that happened before President Biden got there and the pandemic. We got there because under Trump, we weren't minding the business of America. And so we just keep tripping into the potholes of the things that weren't being managed, that got to a level of crisis, and that we're fixing it. And if that's the policies that they want to go back to, I need you guys to understand what we're voting for. We're voting for folks who want to reinstate the hatefulness, reinstate the cronyism. And there are so many offices that were left unfilled because he wanted to put his folks in. He wanted to skip the Senate confirmation process on so many things. Sounds a little bit familiar if you live in Oklahoma, doesn't it? We have a governor who the first thing he did when he became governor was try to do kind of a power grab. He wanted to be able to appoint the heads of everything rather than it going through an established process that had some vetting involved. He wanted to be the head. And we see how that turned out. He appointed a lot of heads of agencies, and a lot of them had to leave office in disgrace, under scandal, under corruption, other allegations of corruption. That's where we are. That's where we are. And I have a saying that I coined earlier this summer, and I'm going to say it now. If you align yourself with my enemy, you define yourself as my enemy. And I believe that our current administration in our state is an enemy of the people. He is not, and I say they because it's the president, it's the governor and the lieutenant governor. No one's talking about the complicitness of our lieutenant governor. He keeps being over here silent so that he doesn't get any stit on him. But I need to remind you, it was his signature on the Swaddley contract. It's his job to oversee the boards. The Office of Land Management, the guy had to leave in scandal, but the lieutenant governor is supposed to oversee that board. And so our lieutenant governor is skating by. No one's asking any questions. Nobody's asking, why isn't he debating? He didn't have any commercials. He is just skating by. But his hand is all over all of the corruption and scandal that we give state credit for. He's right there in there with him. He's just quiet about it. He's just quiet about it because he knows if he says nothing, that he has a chance of skating on in there. We have an attorney. He's not an attorney. We have an attorney who is running for lieutenant governor who understands that role is a watchdog. She understands that role is a watchdog, and that's what we need in that position, not a lapdog, not someone who'll just go along with what the governor says, no matter how corrupt and scandalous. We need someone who will watch out for us as taxpayers. And our current lieutenant governor has proven he doesn't have any interest in that. Our current governor hasn't even pretended like he has any interest in that. And so we have to ask ourselves, do we want 4 more years of this guy? Do we want 4 more years of corruption, cronyism, scandals, lies, gaslighting, telling us that we're a top 10 state when we know we're not? Do we want 4 more years of a lack of transparency, wasting taxpayer dollars, the war on teachers and education, a war on women? We're number 51 in the treatment of women, war on an LGBTQIA2S plus community, war on our tribes. You guys know about that. War on our unions. Do we want 4 more years? And actually, will Oklahoma survive 4 more years of that? Or do we want to usher in 4 new years of integrity and faith and honesty and transparency, restoring our trust, supporting public education and supporting teachers, supporting women, supporting LGBTQIA2S plus folks, supporting unions and tribes, and support for gun safety and support for real jobs for everyday Oklahomans? We have a real choice on the ballot. We have a real choice for who's on the ballot. It's not just a Democrat versus a Republican. It's not just, as the newspapers want you to believe, a man against a woman. It's really corruption against transparency. It's against scandals, against honesty. That's what's on the ballot. That's what's on the ballot. We talk about education. I believe that education is one of the biggest issues facing Oklahoma right now, because our current administration is attacking education, making it break, forcing it to break so that they can usher in vouchers, so that they have a justification for bringing in vouchers. In the meantime, they're harming our students, and they're harming our teachers. And when parents come from under the spell, they'll recognize that it's harming them as well. But it is harming our scholars, and it is harming our teachers. They're just collateral damage to this voucher scheme. And it is a scheme. And I call it a scheme because not everyone has access. Not everyone has access. And the only way that we improve our state, the only way that we get new jobs and new companies to invest in our state, is if we improve our education system. It's on the ballot, folks. That coupled with women's rights, this no exceptions, beginning at conception, no exceptions for rape and incest, all of that, it's on the ballot. Oklahomans, no matter what your affiliation, don't want this extremism. They don't want this huge intrusion. They don't want it, except our elected officials and the majority party are pushing for it regardless of what Oklahomans want. So here I come. Here comes the part. I'm getting there. We've got to change who's representing us. Do we want the folks who are aligning themselves with the former guy who is literally being charged with crimes all over the country, not just where he lives, but all over the country? Do we want folks who align with that? Or do we want integrity and honesty? I think we want integrity and honesty, but it doesn't happen automatically. And it doesn't just happen because we know what we need. The only way it happens is if we pick some candidates. And I'm just a la carte it, guys. Pick a candidate that you haven't heard that much about. Pick a candidate that's in a state ledge, and pick a candidate at the top of the ticket. And give them all a little bit of attention. Give them all a little bit of your time. Give them all a little bit of your talent, your treasure. Shake it up, because the way that we change what happens is all the way down at the county level, all the way up to the federal level, U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress. It's not just one race, but please focus. Please focus. Educate yourself. Educate folks that you know, and then make a plan to not only go, but to take some folks with you. Make a plan to be responsible for your vote and be responsible for encouraging at least 10 other people to vote. The way we change things in Oklahoma, it's not so much that we're a red state, it's that we're a non-voting state. So the way we change it is we change that stat. We become a voting state. We show up in numbers that they can't dispute. We show up in numbers that they can't wave away with magic. We show up in numbers that overwhelm them, that surprise them, that get us who we want. Okay? So educate yourself. Go. Be where the candidates are. And they are everywhere. Be where the candidates are. Learn who they are. Ask them questions. Talk to them. Know who they are. So when you get your ballot, which will be in just a couple of weeks now, when you get your ballot, you can actually picture the faces of the people who are on your ballot. That's the way it should be. You should know the people. And I assure you that Kendra Horn is traveling this state, and she's accessible. Madison Horn is traveling this state, and she's accessible. Joy Hoffmeister, Melinda Elizade Fard, Regia Bowman, Jack Henderson, Charles DeCune, Gina Nelson, Adam Martin, Naomi Andrews, Jeremiah Ross, Mary Brannon, Joshua Harris Hill. They are all having so many events that I can't keep up with it. So there is no excuse not to be able to be where they are. And it's not just that you have to get in your car and drive somewhere. They're doing a combination of in-person events and online events. Go to their website, find out where they're going to be, learn who they are. We have a real shot. You guys know about the polls. You know about the polls. If Joy Hoffmeister is in a dead heat with Kevin Stitt, that she's going to pull some folks with her, but she can only pull them if we give the votes. If Gina Nelson is leading that other guy, if Gina Nelson is in the lead, she's also going to bring other people with her, but only if we show up and vote. Don't hear those numbers and think, okay, we got it. I can stay at home. Because guys, we don't got it. We don't got it until we show up and vote. That we show up and vote and we take everybody with us. We have really qualified candidates. I mean, I am amazed at the level of qualifications of the candidates that we have, but their qualifications aren't going to get them there. The fact that they're the people who should be doing the job isn't going to get them there. The fact that I like them isn't going to get them there. What's going to get them there is if we show up and vote in numbers that can't be disputed. That's the only thing. I say it all the time. The one who gets the most votes wins. It's that simple. So we have to make sure that our picks get the most votes. That simple. Drop me a note. Let me know what you'd like for me to talk about or who you'd like to see join me so that you can get as much information as you can, because we are at 54 days. We're at 54 days. It is clicking. And I need you guys to be as educated as you can. I'm going to do my part, but I'd like to hear what you'd like to hear so that we cover it, so that you can go to the ballot box, even if the ballot box is your dining room table, but so that you can go to the ballot box as educated and as informed as you can possibly be. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back here tomorrow at 4:15. You guys have a great one.